Hey everybody, and welcome back to another What the Flix. So today I'll be fulfilling a request from one of my viewers to review Die Hard. Actually, the entire Die Hard quintilogy. So the movie opens up with John McClane arriving in Los Angeles from New York on a plane. And we get the infamous fisting of the toes scene.
Take off your shoes and your socks, then you walk around on the rug barefoot and make fists with your toes.
No, John, don't do it. Don't take that advice. Oh God, he's gonna regret this. So the company where Holly works sent a limo over to pick up John from the airport and drive him to the party. And of course, for whatever reason, this guy is the nicest limo driver ever. So John walks into the party and it's like this huge, massive, like 30-foot ceilings. There's rocks, there's a waterfall thing, fountain. There's people everywhere. There's like people snorting coke. Chicks and guys are like doing it in the offices. God, I wish my office was this cool. Parties in the 80s were rocking, man. A piece of interesting trivia, the building in this movie is actually the Fox headquarters that was under construction at the time. So you see that some parts are under construction, they really were under construction. So Holly and John get in like a big argument about their marriage and kids and all kinds of stuff. Kind of the undertone is that Holly shouldn't have went and worked in LA for this really great job and made a lot of money.
We never finished this conversation in July.
I had to take.
Right. No matter what the consequences, no matter what it did to our marriage,
It
you had
didn't
to
do
take
anything
this
to our marriage
opportunity.
except maybe change your idea of what our marriage
I
should
think
be.
you have a clue.
But if you think about it, all of this stuff in this movie happened because Holly came to work here, which kind of undertones the fact that it's her fault that all this terrible stuff happened. For John and Holly anyways. Which is kind of a terrible message, honestly. Chest hair. So a couple of guys go in the lobby and like talk about sports loudly, and then the security guard's like, oh, I guess they're talking about sports. Gets shot in the head. Oh man, did you see that steal last minute? He just scooped right in there and scored and poof. Are there like no other guards watching this lobby? They very clearly show there's cameras kind of all over the place, yet there's no other security room in the building, no single guy who wanted to get time and a half on Christmas Eve. Just like sitting and watching like shows in the security office on the 20th floor or something. Also, the other guard is like 10 feet away in the lobby. Did he not hear that? But he's just kind of meandering around the back edge there and then gets shot. Terrorists 1, mall blops 0. Basically, security at this building really sucked. So at this point, John loses his shoes because he takes them off to follow that stupid guy's advice from earlier. It really does work. When McClane's looking out at the chick in the other window, trying to like get an R rating from like boobs from like 300 meters off, why doesn't he just shoot at that chick's window so she gets scared and calls the cops? Throughout this movie, he could have shot through the window or onto the street or at even cars on the ground, but he doesn't, and I have no idea why. So Alan Rickman, Hans, starts interrogating the guy who runs this building, the big boss, to get the codes for the big vault, because they're acting like they're terrorists, but they're really just thieves. And they're gonna steal a ton of like bonds that are not traced. As a money corporation, they would have all these things traced, the numbers recorded. It's not like you can just walk in and take all these things and then not have them being like, wow, those were at the Nakatagi place like a month ago. You stole them clearly. No one would buy these bonds. Anyways, Gruber gets pissed that the guy doesn't give him the code, so he shoots him.
You're gonna have to kill me.
Okay.
And then McClane reveals himself and makes a big show and stuff. And they're like, get him! So McClane kills one of the guys and then writes on his chest, Merry Christmas. And I'm guessing he wrote it in the guy's blood, which is really freaking dark.
Ho, ho.
And then you just see McClane's wife and she's like,
Oh God, it's happening again. The killings. John, no.
So then John uses the guy's radio to call the cops, and the cops think he's a prankster, but then the dispatch lady hears gunfire, lots of gunfire through the earphone, and she's like, oh my God, it's deafening her? God, these pranksters and their guns. And then she's like, oh, send a guy on his way home to kind of walk around there a bit. I mean, gunfire on Christmas, it's not like this is a sensitive time of year.
See if there's a black and white that can do a drive-by.
So they send Sergeant Al to check out the building, and he walks around, he heads on in, he comes back out. Oh God, Al, be careful, you have a life of Carl's Jr.'s ahead of you. But he doesn't notice things fast enough, so McClane throws a body on his car. At this point, Al like pulls it into reverse and cranks and like throws himself back into a culvert that's like away from the building under a hail of gunfire. They're trying to kill him, which again, no one hears. No one hears any of the gunfire in this movie. I guess it's LA, so maybe gunfire is like really common. Clearly it's just another gang war. Thousands of rounds being exchanged. Not a big deal. Glovies. So Al calls for backup, and then all the cops and the SWATs appear, and they tons of cars, and they surround the place. So the principal from Breakfast Club shows up, and he's the boss of the LAPD.
This is Deputy Chief of Police Dwayne T. Robinson, and I am in charge of this situation.
Don't mess with the bull, young man. You'll get the horns.
These terrorists are going to be clapping erasers for the next 20 years. Also, that guy that got thrown onto Al's car, probably a stockbroker.
Oh, it's probably some stockbroker got the press.
But I'm not going to check. God, you want me to do all this work? So Hans's men lower the security gates? Holy shit, those gates are huge. Place is built like a fortress. Well, when you make up shit like Fox News, you gotta expect a couple of angry mobs. So then the gung-ho SWAT guys like, I'm gonna send in a bunch of my guys with no tack helmets, no like really good gear or anything, and they're gonna try to cut through a glass door with a torch. They're not gonna just break the glass, they're gonna torch the little tiny locky thing so they can get in. Why the heck does a torch sound like a saw? SWAT sends in a little curry thing, and that curry thing gets blown the shit out of. And then McClane throws like C4 down a chute, like a big air vent, and somehow he knows that this C4 is gonna blow up exactly where the bad guys are shooting rockets from to disable them. I'm just like, how could you possibly know that? So at this point, Gruber's like, God, man, McClane, give me my detonators. So Gruber's up like in the top checking explosives and stuff and making sure everything's good when McClane finds him. So Gruber pretends to be just like a normal hostage person. He gets all grovelly and stuff, but then McClane tricks him by giving him an empty gun, which Gruber pulls on him.
Oops. No bullets.
And then there's another action scene where a bunch of guys shoot at McClane and Gruber gets away. That scene was actually not included in the original script, but after Alan Rickman was said to be able to do a good American accent, they were like, yeah, let's slip that in. So if you thought the SWAT guy was gung-ho, the FBI show up. Johnson & Johnson, baby.
How you doing, man?
I'm Agent Johnson. This is Special Agent Johnson.
Oh, how you doing?
No relation.
A family federal company. And they totally take this up a notch. So they almost immediately cut the power to the building, which of course plays directly into Gruber's plans and knocks out the final lock to the vault. So when the vault opens, how the heck does that big CRT monitor stay powered, but the more important lock for the vault not stay powered? That's freaking bad design, man. And how does the vault open without power? It's got this gigantic door. That's got to be some kind of like hydraulics or pneumatics or a motor or something. So Gruber calls the FBI and demands that they send transport choppers. So the FBI agrees with the demands, but it's crossing their fingers the whole time. Instead, they sent heavy attack choppers to destroy all the terrorists and probably some of the hostages. 20-25% tops. Also, was there like a law in the 80s where every action movie had to have a news reporter?
You let me in right now, or I call the INS. Comprende?
So Gruber finally figures out that Holly is McClane's wife.
Mrs. McClane.
And he uses her as like a leverage to get McClane to do what he wants. So Gruber has rigged the roof of the building to explode to cover their deaths. But the problem is that why would everyone consider that all of them were dead if the roof exploded when there's so much more of the building where these people could have been, where they wouldn't have gotten killed? So the criminals get all the hostages onto the roof, but then McClane saves all the hostages by killing all the terrorist guys, and then shooting, and then making it so all the hostages go downstairs. And I'm guessing the hostages move very, very quickly because the top 3 floors of the building explode like 30 seconds later, and McClane is thrown off the side of the building, and the attack choppers sent by the FBI are blown up as well. So McClane finds Gruber holding Holly as a hostage and one of the other henchmen, Eddie, and he has his gun taped to the back of his head, so he drops his main machine gun and he looks like he's unarmed. But at the last second, he pulls out his gun, shoots the 2 guys, and frees Holly. Gruber is flung out a window, but grabs onto Holly's watch and pulls her half out the window, which is kind of another sort of weird sub-symbol, where you have Holly wearing this watch that was given to her for doing a good job, and that's what's caused her to be pulled out the window with the criminal. So kind of the subconscious text here is that her great ability to do a good job at this particular work has caused this to befell her, which is again kind of a weird choice. They could have just had it so Holly was getting held by the hand or the wrist, but no, it had to be the watch. Why did they make that choice? Eventually, McClane pulls the watch off of her and Gruber falls to his death, which is kind of a metaphor for McClane removing the status symbol of her success.
Show him the watch. It's just a small token of appreciation for all her hard work.
And that has saved her. Holly and McClane then get out of the building finally, but then the unkillable henchman guy comes out and he's just about to shoot McClane when Al pulls his gun, which sounds like a freaking huge cannon. And kills this guy with like 6-7 shots, saving the day. Argyle, the limo driver, busts out of the parkade, which he could have done earlier, and then the McClanes get in, they drive away, and White Christmas plays. So what did we learn in this movie? Everyone in the 80s had the exact same brand of walkie-talkie and always used the same frequency. Al shot a kid, but it wasn't Urkel. Goddamn pranksters. You should never wear a watch as a woman, or Grubers will grab you. Office parties were so hot in the 80s. Gunshots in LA are so common, no one even calls the police. Even the police don't call the police. I think I have to give this movie a 9.5 out of 10. There's a few technical issues, there's a few things that pulled me out of the movie. Die Hard's a great movie. It's probably one of the best movies ever made. While watching it, it's hard to be bored, the action is consistent. I think it's definitely held up over the years, and it's still a great Christmas movie, even though it was released in July. And with that, I give it a B, seal of B-proval. Well, thank you for watching, guys. I'm going to be doing all of the Die Hard series, even the 5th one. Ugh. So like, share, subscribe if you please, and I'll see you next time with Die Hard 2 and 3.